here was a mandate. I want to share with you just a mandate that was given to us a few years ago. And it was just getting our innovation team around a particular common process and a problem. And it certainly wasn't the M5 motorway if this turns over. 1 second. Right. So again, there's Pepper on the left-hand side. There's the 150-year-old problem on the right-hand side. That's a typical claims process where a policyholder was forced through a process of dealing with up to 10 stakeholders in a simple property claim. A policyholder logs the claim with the broker sends the claim to the insurer engages a number of adjusters, they have a number of builders turn up, those builders do 3 or 4 quotes and the loss adjuster decides and then organises trades and services. The policyholder completely loses line of sight. It's a confusing process and hasn't changed for over 150 years. So the market folks that we were working with had a mandate and they simply said this: what if you could rethink the property claim process? What if you could challenge that 150-year-old model by applying 2 things, just digital and data? Okay? But we want you to focus on the customer only first. Okay? And the number 1 rule we applied was no lipstick could be applied in any of the process, so it had to be completely rethought. But here was the insights, right? So the true disruption, we knew this is part of the thinking and methodology as we design process and ecosystems for customers. The true disruption along the value chain only occurs when the disruption changes the core foundation of the business model. That's a lot of words, right? Let me say that again. The true disruption along the value chain only occurs when disruption changes the core foundation of the business model. An example of this is the ability for digital to be used to be allowing us to rethink and redesign the entire customer journey. From the time a policyholder purchases a policy right the way through to claims time. And as Vanessa quite rightly said, claims is the moment of truth. And interestingly enough, of the 3,000 registered Insurtechs in the market at the moment, less than 4% of those are dedicated to claims innovation. 4%. 4%. Yet in a hardening market, when price and service and the ability to be able to reach into your organisation to be able to squeeze more from particularly less. Claims has to be a new opportunity in terms of a huge gap in the Insurtech world where claims can be something that could not only be attractive for an organisation but certainly the Insurtechs in the market. However, I mean this mandate, as I quite rightly said, can you imagine this is like corralling cats? So 2 years ago, putting a whole lot of these group of folks together and being able to have a deep collaboration between brokers, insurers, claim management businesses and the broader value chain to truly create a seamless, watch this is what was the mandate, a seamless, highly automated, predictable end-to-end claims fulfillment settlement solution that considered all stakeholders equally. You know, there's a few tigers you have to hold by the tail to get all those folks in a room and wanted to collaborate. But the interesting part of the Insurtech movement more recently is that collaboration is becoming more and more accepted. So just to explain the mandate a little bit further and to give you some context about what's possible when true collaboration comes from all parts of the industry, we were given an opportunity to cut through the noise. We had to rethink the property claim process, but initially, we had to consider only 2 elements. Not the broker, not the insurer, not the supply chain. We had to consider 2 elements. The customer and that damaged property. Further to the mandate, it talked about building out a digital workflow that connected everyone on all critical elements of that property claim. That provide a capability for full customer self-service as an option. So a customer wanting to manage all or some of the components of their claim themselves, be able to share loss and damage information. The mandate was part of the workflow process was to be consistent and predictable. So for example, being able to organise the fastest and most logical sequence of events to best service the customer. Not the insurer, not the broker, but the customer. And that included things like coordinating the supply chain to mitigate the damage, make the property safe, make it secure, organise temporary accommodation if the customer needed to, particularly in that type of claim, get a claims decision and keep the customer informed. The mandate also talked about 3 key measures. They wanted to measure total claim cycle time, both at a total level and also at an individual stakeholder level. Overall customer experience, but here's the kicker. They also wanted us to measure the experience of the customer throughout the claims process. throughout the claims process. So how am I feeling at any given stage in the claims process? Now keep in mind that most claims in the Australian market in property, this is a horrible statistic which we're all trying to improve, under $10,000 take 130 to 160 days from lodgement to final supplier payment to close off the claim. So that's 160 days to keep the customer informed and 160 days for a customer to share how they're feeling about the claims process. So that was an interesting view. And the last one was to take a look at the overall claims cost. And also understand the overall claims cost from not just an overall claims cost, but the claims cost from any given point in the claim. So they were looking to take a look at real-time reserve movement being fed up into policy administration systems. And not that that mandate was too complex, because we sort of had a handle around that. They then wanted to connect the broker, the insurer, and the relevant parties to the claim workflow. They wanted to make sure it was CAT scalable. They wanted to ensure that it included a future proof of Insurtech inclusions such as live video, AI, predictive analytics. So they wanted to be future proof for that. And they also wanted to ensure that the data that they were collecting around those folks interacting with a single claim, such as the broker interaction, insurer, policyholder, suppliers, insurance builders, trades and contractors, was all collected in a structured way to give them an opportunity to look at that data and have an opportunity for continuous improvement and data that they'd never actually seen before. So new data insights. So we took that mandate away, and so to understand where we started from, and I'll share some insights here. And again, making sure that you understand whether you're building a 3 or 4 bedroom house is understanding that digital footprint. And so we looked at the core foundation. And so how we went about understanding what they required, we built a core foundation of customer, broker, insurer. And here's the component that gets left off the most. But in a property claim, the greatest spend comes from labour and material. And guess who spends that money? And most folks is the contractors, the builders. So those folks needed to be included in the digital foundation. We then moved from there and we built up a core workflow, a predictable core workflow. We then delivered a performance layer that focused on customer, speed of claim, and the cost of claim. And once we had that performance layer, we were then able to overlay the data and analytics, the predictive tools. I'll just pull that up. The predictive tools, which we call this a core intelligence layer. Artificial intelligence, and certainly the ability to have a space in our foundation, not our foundation, the customer's foundation, for the new Insurtechs that came along. And what this produces is it gave us an opportunity to create a scalable ecosystem platform. So as you can imagine, I'm an advocate for the ecosystem platforms. One that centers around the digital workflow. One that talks to the core performance of customer, speed, and cost. Right? Because when we break it down, those 3 parameters are the real 3 parameters around claims: customer, speed, and cost. And then produces these new data insights that haven't seen before, allowing the future proofing of Insurtechs to be able to be added to that. But more importantly, and as a default, being able to use this type of model or technology to be able to work with strategic continuous improvement, not just across claims, but also supply chain. Particularly on the weather-related events of Melbourne and Victoria over the last few days, it's particularly relevant. I don't share this to beat our chest and suggest to you that we know more than most. Why I share this is because without the deep collaboration with the right stakeholders in the room and being exhaustive on everyone's agenda and what they're looking to get out of that, this process or this product, from a customer to a broker, because they have different agendas, to an insurer to a supplier, they have different agendas. But we will need to all be equally working together from a digital foundation perspective to be able to achieve what's at the top there. And so being able to get that into a model, the vision came first, the digital foundation came second, and the operating model came third. And now it's just the process of continuous improvement and operationalization. And I'll just leave you with these 2 parting slides. The status quo and the disruptive. There comes a point in time where you have to make a decision. You can't stand idle. There's many Insurtech businesses out there. There's some great collaboration associations. If you're not a part of them, it's well worth your while to be a part of those. And interestingly enough, as you go about building your digital foundation, and excuse the farming analogy, I do come from the country, but excuse the farming analogy, you've got to be careful about what you build your digital foundation from, because you need to be ready for when that wind does blow.